Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host, Valerie, and sometime co-host, Miss Purrington. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. We bring you articles and podcasts featuring the best in Austin comedy in all its shapes and formats. Started in 2016, the podcast project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. Today, I sit down with somebody whose very timid, mouse-ish demeanor almost catches, not almost, it does catch you off guard when you hear the filthy stuff that comes out of her mouth sometimes. And if you haven't seen this live and in person for yourself, it is one of the joys to watch an audience get caught off guard by some of her jokes. And speaking of filthy, I hope that one day she'll be part of the resurrection of the Damn Dirty Filthy show, which she used to co-host with Cody Greenlee. Her prowess at delivery and her expert craftsmanlike joke writing has rewarded her the last 2 years by having her be in the finals of the Funniest Person in Austin contest. And this is speaking as somebody who has watched the finals for several years. The fact that in 2018 they have finally rewarded somebody who is a slow-paced but deliberative joke teller gives me great hope for her prospects in the future in the contest. And I have actually gotten to see a different side of her. Maybe it's not a different side. It's just getting to see an added side of her as the co-host of the Playpen Open Mic on Tuesday nights at the Fallout Theater. She's animated. She's, dare I say, gregarious as the host, and seeing these two sides emerge of her personality on stage has made me a big fan of hers. And to finalize my introduction, she is one of these seemingly more and more common comics that I've interviewed lately who got a really early start in comedy. In fact, she started at a church talent show at 6. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Elizabeth Spears.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you. What an introduction.
Yeah, right? Did you see me like sweating as hoping to catch all of the highlights of what I've observed over the last few years of you. And it's been neat to see you. Oh my God. It's been great to see you as a host of a show, because I feel like with the Damn Dirty show, it was a co-hosted situation, and that show was, it just really didn't put you on showcase. You know, it was an ensemble production, and it felt like purposefully, it wasn't about you, but I feel like with the Playpen, you've left your mark as the host for that show.
Yeah, it's definitely different hosting by yourself. And I feel like a lot of people think of me as being low energy. But when you host, you kind of have to, I don't know. I mean, I try to keep my style, and it's kind of inevitable that I'll keep my style of being a little bit pessimistic about the open mic, and a little bit sarcastic, and a little bit of a negative Nancy, but I still try to like add in a little bit of extra energy to get people excited.
Yeah. And I shouldn't have necessarily jumped right into a show that you're currently hosted, because I really like to go back in time. In fact, my first icebreaker question, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's one word to describe your past.
Ooh, let's see, my past. I guess disappointed, is that a good word? God. Yeah, I feel like, I guess it just comes from always just being in school for so long and going through different stages of school, and always thinking like, oh, this next part I'm going to come a little bit closer to being independent and not being treated like a little baby. And,
interesting.
Yeah, it just keeps happening. So that's kind of like how I started doing comedy, I guess, was from a negative place. Like when I went to college in South Carolina, I had built it up in my mind like, it's going to be so fun, college, it's going to be so much better than high school. And then I hated it. And I started watching George Carlin and connecting with his hatred, basically. So, yeah, that's definitely how it started for me. But I'm lucky now I guess then it was a positive thing in my life to help me deal with those negative feelings. But it's also, I can enjoy comedy for just being something fun instead of like making me justified in my anger.
Yeah. Can we go back to this 6-year-old church talent show?
Of course.
Because when you start off telling me that disappointed is your word from the past and it was a way to deal with the disappointments in your life. Okay, I have a child, so I hate to imagine that a 6-year-old could be disappointed in life. How did that?
Well, that wasn't even out of my own choice. It was both my sister and I both did stand up, and we didn't like write our own jokes or anything. It was just like this book that I guess my mom bought or something that had a bunch of little church jokes in it. We just like recited them at the talent show. So I definitely was not even thinking about comedy really until like college. Like I'd never even had watched any comedy specials that I could even remember like in high school and before that.
Yeah, I like to ask my guests if they have an early comedic memory. And a lot of times people will say something like, oh, I watched George Carlin. Yeah. And that's, that was something you said right off the bat. But yeah, so you didn't have anything other than that talent show as a
right. And I don't even recall, like in my actual memory, I don't remember the talent show. I just like, I guess, for one of my birthdays, within the past few years after I'd already started doing stand-up, my sister found that old video and sent it to me. And I was like, wow, that's so funny. I didn't even remember that I did that. And it's absolutely adorable. Like, how sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can assume then that you didn't do any more performance after 6.
No, I didn't. I took a hiatus.
So what did get you, so you absorbed some George Carlin, and was it one of those situations where you watched his special and you started just going after his comedy and watching more of his work? Or did you say, wow, I really like this, and then let it simmer for a while and then start absorbing more comedy? Or did it push you into action?
Well, so I think I started watching him, like, I spent a year in South Carolina, and I guess it was pretty early on that I started watching George Carlin, and I think it was really only, like, mostly his specials that I was watching. I was very obsessed with him and was, like, showing his specials to my friends, and they were like, ew, this is gross and weird.
Really? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and I was like, they don't get it. But I loved him so much. And, eventually I did start watching other people too. But, he was definitely the person that I was focused on. I was very, like, pretentious too about comedy. I was like, oh, I would love to do this and, like, get to share, like, real thoughts like George Carlin says it like it is, tells the truth. I want to tell the truth. Yeah, that was how it began. I definitely don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah. You're in college and you said you were there for a year. And what happened next? Because I can't imagine, although I'm sure there are comedy clubs and opportunities in South Carolina. But at this point, you're not interested in performing.
I did not try to perform in South Carolina at all. But really since, like, the moment I got there, like, the very first week, I was like, I am going back home as soon as I can. But since I moved all my stuff out to South Carolina, my parents would not let me come back until the year mark. Oh, wow. I don't think I guess I probably considered, like, coming back after the first fall semester. But then, yeah, that was not really feasible or allowed.
And where is home?
In Austin.
Okay. Are you one of the rare breeds, born and raised?
Yes. I was born in Austin, and I went to elementary school in Oak Hill. Okay. But then I moved out to Dripping Springs. So I really, most of what I remember is Dripping Springs.
Okay. I spent some time in Dripping Springs, and that area has certainly changed certainly over your lifetime.
Yes, for sure.
And even in the time that I've been back in Austin.
Yeah, it's not not the little hill country that it used to be.
No. So you persevered for your 1 year, and then you raced back home.
Right.
And like the point of this podcast isn't necessarily to like delve into the dark corners of somebody's life, but it seems like knowing what I know of how you present yourself on stage, there are clouds in your life, and your password affirms that.
Yeah.
That cloud. So I can only imagine you must have been devastated that you couldn't wait to get out of this environment that you thought was going to be like, the holy grail of, I get to be away from home. It's going to be fantastic. And, so what was your state of mind coming back home, and how did you start picking yourself back up?
Well, I guess by the time I guess I was back in Austin for like a semester before I started doing comedy. So I don't think I can't really remember if I was like looking forward to starting or if I still wasn't sure if I was going to do it. But when I decided to come back home, I mean, I don't know if I was super excited about it. I guess I was glad to get out of that small college. But I don't really remember exactly how I felt. I was just glad I would be able to have a car because I didn't have a car out there. So yeah, I don't really remember if I felt really excited to come home or once I started doing comedy when I came back, which was like I said, about half a year after I came back to Austin. That was very exciting for me when I first started. So, yeah.
How did you find out that there even was a comedy scene in Austin?
I guess I just was on the internet, like looking for open mics, and I found Last Gas. So I just saw there's open mics every night of the week. So I went to one open mic with my friends just to watch and see. It was actually the Cold Town open mic on Monday nights. And that was another time where, like, after the show ended, I was, like, telling my friends, oh, my God, that's so great. And they're like, oh, God, that was not good. I was like, okay.
They didn't appreciate some of the ups and downs of watching an open mic.
But I guess it's more exciting if you're, like, considering doing it yourself, because then when it sucks, you're like, oh, yes, I can do this. Yeah. Whereas when you're just a regular person watching and it sucks, you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long before you stepped on stage?
I think after that open mic, I went to Kick Butt either that same week or the week after.
Had you done any performance before then?
I was in theater in high school, but I was never in any of the like school plays or anything. I just, sometimes we had like shows that our class put on or whatever, but yeah, I didn't ever, and I was in band, so I always enjoyed like having solos and stuff, being all cool by myself, showing off. That was my thing.
Yeah. Okay, I would not have expected that.
What instrument? Guess what instrument I played?
Tuba.
No, the opposite of that.
The opposite of that. The French horn?
No, the flute.
The flute. Okay.
And piccolo.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess I would. I mean, that's consistent with the kind of low-key presence.
Really?
Maybe?
I could think of a few flute players who contradict that. Yeah.
How did you go about writing that first open mic set?
I don't remember. Like, I really don't remember how long I was working on writing jokes before I did that. I mean, I definitely had, like, jokes prepared, and I had, like, a set list where I had, like, typed up the jokes I was going to tell. But I don't remember, like, how long I had worked on, like, thinking of, like, the perfect jokes to tell.
And is what we see today what you were doing?
Oh, not at all.
No.
What
was your approach?
Well, when I first started, like, I was kind of still in that mindset of, like, wanting to, like, say shocking things, I guess, or, like, I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. And just, yeah, it's very, much more, don't really want to say offensive, because to me, like, sexual stuff is not offensive. But yeah, it was just a lot more shocking, I guess, and also not as, clever, I would say.
Do you think that you were trying to be shocking for a particular reason?
I guess that was just like what you kind of start coming up with first, and especially for me, like going off of my thing about George Carlin and like, oh, I want to say what nobody's saying, and like, yeah, I was also going to like Gordo's open mic, where it's like a bunch of dudes, like, I guess back then, well, I don't really know because I didn't go to all the mics, so, but most of the mics I went to were like a bunch of weird dudes, so, and it was just all comics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what I was going for. I was just thinking whatever I thought was funny, and I also hadn't really watched a lot of comedy then, so I didn't really, like, I came up with a lot of ideas that I guess were already things that people were thinking of. Like, for example, I guess one thing, I can't remember exactly what the idea was, something about tissues and how tissues are used for dirty fluids and also for tears. I don't know if I'm allowed to say dirty words
on this.
Yeah.
Yes, of course you are. I interview comics.
Stick with that.
You mean jizz?
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was going for.
How was your delivery style? Because I think your delivery is part of your stage performance. Were you the same, very slow, deliberate?
Yes, probably much slower. I've definitely like tried harder to go faster now, and people don't realize that because people still think I talk slow. But yeah, it was definitely much slower and probably much even more monotone than I am now, if you can imagine. And I haven't really thought about my delivery that much. It's not like an intentional thing, like being deadpan or whatever. So whatever. In fact, like I said, it's more intentional now that I try to pick up the pace. And
yeah. Huh. It's interesting because as we've been talking, like I really honestly was expecting that in talking with you, because I made the comment about as the host of Playpen, I find you animated and almost gregarious. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to get as an interview guest. But I'm hearing a lot of the same slow, deliberate pacing as you're talking to me. And so it's not entirely surprising that would have been your starting off point. But what is surprising to me is that you're trying to speed that up.
Yeah.
Whatever that definition is for yourself. And I'm curious as to, are you doing that because you think that would make you better? Or is it that you're getting more comfortable? Because the other thing I want to go back to is, how long ago was that first open mic?
That was like, gosh, so I was 19. So it must have been like 4.5 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So to answer your question about my working to speed up and use more energy, I think that's, well, first of all, I was trying to do that for the contest because I think like when you only have like 6 minutes and it's for a contest atmosphere, I think it makes sense to go faster and use more energy. But if I also for hosting, like I've been trying to work on getting work at the club and being able to host at the club. So I think it makes sense as a host that you want to be a little bit faster and have a little bit more energy. I think if I was doing like a headlining set or something like that, I might, slow it down a little bit. But I think for me, like even when I do go faster, it still works. So I think if it works both ways, then it's probably better to go faster as long as you have enough material to fill that time.
Yeah.
Because then you get to fit more jokes in
Right.
to impress people more and make them like you.
Yeah. For somebody that has been disappointed, is that an important part of performing? Is having
making
people
people like me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what feels good about it, I think, when you make people laugh at least.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to like me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice for them to think that I'm funny.
Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Oh.
To write some of your content, how do you spend a lot of time trying to find those crafty turns?
I mean, that's really how I go into joke writing. Like, I guess to simplify my process, basically I have like a document where I keep all my working ideas, and then I try to spend some time sitting down and looking at those ideas and putting them into the right words. Mm-hmm. And so when I do put them into words, usually I think about like basically two simple things, which is cutting out as many words as possible and like getting to whatever your actual point is, like what's funny about it.
Yeah.
And then also putting the funniest word at the end. That's basically the simplified version.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is not necessarily the craft of how to write a joke, but it's interesting because your joke writing style, I find very unique, and I've said the word multiple times already, but very deliberate. Like every word has its place when you are telling a joke on stage. And so I wonder if when you're trying to practice your jokes, do you do an open mic and you're improvising your joke, and then you think about it, and then you start shaving words off until, or do you just write and that's what you...
I mean, sometimes I'll like accidentally discover how to say something better when I'm at an open mic, but I don't usually like, I think I work best when I come up with what I'm going to say first. And then if it doesn't work that way, then I'll change the wording a little bit for the next time. I think that's what works best for me. If I'm being smart, then usually I won't go to an open mic, like not knowing what words I'm going to use. But that does happen because I get lazy. But it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. So I think it was 2 years ago, if I have my timeline right, 2016 is when you and Cody inherited the Damn Dirty Filthy show. Mm-hmm. Short-lived because the damn bar decided to...
We had it about a year.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it felt short
to
me because it was one of my favorite
it was a monthly
shows.
show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, maybe that's why. Yeah. Yeah. How did you get chosen as that host?
I don't know. I mean, this is a guess. It makes sense though. Like Abby and Martin both, well, first of all, me and Cody already hosted Cherrywood together.
Okay.
And I like to think that Abby and Martin noticed me as someone who kind of was at the level where I could be hosting a showcase.
Yeah.
And they also know that I have a bunch of dirty jokes. Cody has a bunch of dirty jokes. So I don't know. Yeah. I've never talked to them about it, but I'm grateful that they picked us.
And I had forgotten that you were co-hosting Cherrywood at the time. And at what point did that happen in your timeline of...
So I guess Cody was hosting it by himself, I think, before he asked me to host with him. I vaguely recall me, like, asking him to let me host with him. I don't remember. I don't really remember at all. Yeah.
Okay. And then, after Damn Dirty Filthy show wraps up, did you have a vacuum in your life with shows? Or did...
So I think I had already started doing Playpen with Nikita like a few months before that. Or actually, I think it was like about the same time that I started hosting Playpen was when we started the Damn Dirty Filthy show. So I guess we had already been doing Playpen for a year once I lost the Damn Dirty Filthy show. So, Yeah, I don't think I really felt a void from it because it was once a month and it kept like creeping up on me because I was really busy with school. So I was kind of annoyed with myself for not taking it as seriously as I should have. So once it was gone, I was like, okay, now I don't have to beat myself up for not preparing for this show anymore.
Do you, as a performer, feel the void that I feel as a fan of that show? Because maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see an equivalent out there these days.
Yeah,
There's a ton of shows, no doubt, but is there one that is so specifically targeted? Because I always found it interesting to go watch that show, and you had some people who embraced the challenge of writing their, some filthy new material, and then you had others who you could tell, I'm just going to do my regular jokes. And it was always interesting to see how they would respond. And I don't see an equivalent to that out there.
Yeah, I guess the Naughty Bits show is somewhat similar. I guess Naughty Bits is also about like relationships, which people did that at the Damn Dirty Filthy show too. I guess, it was fun, like seeing people who wouldn't normally do dirty stuff. That was probably my favorite part, I guess. It's definitely interesting, although it is annoying when people don't actually do dirty jokes.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not really like looking to start that kind of show again. I guess because right now I'm trying to focus on writing material that's not super dirty, just so I can be versatile.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. No, it has a clear definition. That's very a straightforward word.
So, did you and Nikita invent the concept of playpen where you have to go on stage with brand new material?
No, I don't think. I mean, I might have played some part in like choosing between like concepts similar to the one we have or the one we came up with eventually. But she was already working with like the people at the theater with that concept, and then she asked me to join her. So I think we might have decided between like brand new material or like material that we had to write backstage, which is what it said on the website for way too long, but that was not correct.
Have you noticed your own evolution over I guess it's been 3 years then that you've been hosting or, co-host / hosting Playpen?
Yeah, I think it's been like 2.5 years, probably. I think definitely like when me and Nikita were hosting together, it was really fun, like coming up with new ideas for things that we could both do on stage. And most of the time we would do something weird instead of just like talking to each other. So that was definitely fun. And I think that's probably what I miss the most about like losing the Dirty Show and losing Nikita as my host is like being able to practice hosting with someone else and just also doing things other than just regular stand-up. Although now that I'm hosting by myself, I also am enjoying like having that opportunity to try out my own new jokes at the beginning of the show.
Right.
Which is also very helpful for my just building up material. Because I already have to be there. I hate open mics so much. So it's like, well, I already have to come to this one. So that's good that I can actually try out new jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, and for somebody who maybe has a hard time being pushed to write new stuff, it is I don't know that there's any other open mic that is like explicit in that requirement. I mean, you kind of think that most open mic are supposed to be like that. You're trying out new material, you're working stuff out, as they say, but you're explicit about it. And you have a funny take about it because I've seen now, I almost wish there was a Gong Show approach where like if you know that somebody has done the same thing, that you get the big cane and pull them off stage.
I wish I had the energy to keep track of who's cheating and ban them, but I just don't have that.
It's an honor system. And I mean, I've gone to a handful of shows now, and I think most people seem to be compliant.
And you're only hurting yourself if you don't do new jokes.
Right. When in this timeline did you start doing the funniest person in Austin contest?
So actually I guess it was 2 years ago was my first time doing it. So
Wow.
that was, but like I said, I've been doing comedy for like 4.5 years. So I didn't do it the first year, I guess the first 2 years that I was doing comedy. So I was kind of like a little bit purposefully and a little bit because I was just introverted, I guess. That's a nice way of saying it. So I was kind of like laying low, I guess, in the comedy scene and trying to like be good before I put myself really out there, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think anything can really beat that, like making it to the finals my first year doing the contest when most people didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, so is 2017 your first?
What year is it? No, so what year? So this is 2018.
Yep.
So I made it to the finals this year.
Yep.
Last year I didn't even advance at all, I don't think.
What?
And then the year before that I made it to the finals.
Oh,
that was my first
I have my
year.
timeline reversed because I thought you've made it 17 and 18. So so 16,
16
and then 18.
and 18.
Okay, so 16 was your first. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And I think they gave us like 2, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 extra minutes in the finals. It felt like 2 because I was not prepared for that. But yeah, it was really cool to make it, and nothing will ever live up to that.
Yeah, and so I remember that's LaShonda's year, and I remember that sequence. You were right smack in the middle of that lineup, I believe.
I don't remember, but I definitely wasn't first or last. So yeah, and it was really a good year to be in the finals too, because I was obviously just happy to be there and not trying to accomplish that much. And I was really excited for LaShonda to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say one of my, I don't see you do this joke very often, but one of my favorite jokes, which at first I'm like, this is such a weird joke. But now in hindsight, I love the joke so much because it's just so goofy and silly, but it's such a good capture of you, and now you're going to be like, what joke is she talking about? The wrist one.
Oh, yeah. That one doesn't work anymore. I've been trying to figure it out. Yeah, I don't know. It's still on my list of jokes to figure out what to say. Because, it used to work. I don't know. I don't know if, like, my other jokes have just gotten better, so that one doesn't land, or if I've just lost the magic. Or, you know what it might be is that I try to not dress as bad anymore.
Oh, okay.
So the joke kind of depends on me, like, wearing baggy clothes and, like, only showing my wrists.
Yeah.
But I don't really do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that could be it.
Yeah, maybe. I just thought it was really funny.
Thank you. Then I will definitely give that an extra try for you.
Well, okay. Well, but if you're more comfortable not wearing the baggy clothes, then, Oh,
I'm much more comfortable wearing the baggy clothes. I'm trying to make it in Hollywood now.
Oh, okay.
So I gotta show my skin.
Huh. Okay, are you literally trying to make it in Hollywood now?
I mean, I am, I would love to make money from doing stand-up. So I think it's a smart move to dress a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you in your evolution of your comedy? Like, where are you trying to go now? Because you've hosted shows, you've made it twice to the finals.
Yeah. Well, I'm hosting at CAP for the first time in August. So I'm very excited about that. That was one of my goals that I've been thinking about. Really, I just want to keep working on my jokes, and also right now I'm kind of trying to be able to build a real fan base, because I keep having people, like audience members, coming up to me after shows and telling me they liked me so much, and so I feel like now is the time to start like grabbing onto those people and trying to get them to keep supporting me.
Yeah.
but I also need to keep writing new material so that I can hold on to those people.
Right.
So
You actually have a fan website.
I do.
Because part of my research, I Google your name and see what pops up. And I saw, she's got a website. And then I, dug in a little bit more, and it's a fan website.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Did you know that was going to happen, or were you surprised by?
Oh, I made that.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Yes. And not to spoil it,
That's
but
great.
yeah, that's me. I'm so glad I tricked you. That's so fun.
Yeah.
When did you look at it? Because I updated it recently.
Sometime this week.
Oh, did you see all the pictures of me washing my car?
Did I notice the washing the car? I don't look at the pictures. I try to read the text more than anything. And
We've got some pretty exciting updates happening. ElizabethFans.com.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's that crafty turn that you do to your audience. And here I am, self-proclaimed good researcher, and you got me. You got me.
That would be, oh man, I'm glad I tricked you. So tell me more about your impression of my fan page. Were you creeped out by it?
I was a little creeped out by it, which again, this is on brand.
Yeah.
So I like it. So I think you're doing a great job now that I know the truth. I think, let's see. Well, you're not asking for suggestions, but so you're on the right track with making it seem, a little bit creepy, but not too creepy.
Yeah. Oh, it's about to get way creepier.
Ooh.
I've got some stuff in store. This is how I deal with my fears of being stalked. I just start stalking myself.
Oh my God. Are you legitimately afraid of being stalked?
I think, so I guess if I'm trying to become a real comedian, I think, which I am now, I'm telling myself that, I can admit it. I think that's a real possibility as a woman. So yes, it does creep me out.
Yeah, yeah. I don't tend to focus on necessarily like a gender issues in the comedy scene, but is that, you said the words, and I'm just gonna go with it now.
Yeah.
You could have said puppies, and I would have. How do you feel about puppies at dog shows? How do you have an observation? Because you seem like you observe things from kind of a dark place. Mm-hmm. Do you have observations about? And you certainly talked about your first open mic, or the first, scene when you were first doing mics, that it was a lot of weird dudes.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of those weird dudes would be like people that are my friends now. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, obviously I feel very lucky. Like the Austin comedy scene has so many people who are very supportive and like mindful of supporting women.
Yeah. And
for me, like the main thing, I guess, that I don't know if people don't think about it, like possibly in Austin, because there is such a nurturing scene for women here. I think there's a lot of things people still don't think about that make it possibly unbalanced. For example, like going to the Valve or whatever, like going downtown as a woman, trying to figure out the parking situation, walking by yourself, and just constantly like, and then this also has to do with like anxiety too, not just being a woman, but, and obviously, like, men could be attacked on the street, too, so a man with anxiety could also have the same fears, but I think there are a lot of men who don't think about that, so deciding whether to go to the Valve open mic, a woman might not go to it as often because of dealing with that situation.
Right.
So, just things like that.
Yeah. It just made me think of there should be a carpool for the anxiety-ridden kind of concept, because you're right, it's not just women. There's I've talked to a lot. There are men who have anxiety,
right?
And that it's a great club. It's a great mic. It's always a great show at the Valve. But sometimes it is a hurdle to get past I'm gonna have to fight the people that are crossing my path on 6th Street and
Yeah, that's, even like just walking like a block, like pretty much any new open mic that I go to, I don't like to go anywhere where there's not, parking very close. And also just like, you know, people being creepy to women after shows, like audience members who will come up to you and like touch your shoulder or your arm or your waist even, or whatever it is that they think they can touch you and be like, oh, great job. And then touch your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
This Comedy Wham representative here. Please, audience members, don't do that.
Yeah.
You haven't been given permission.
Yeah, it's turning into a big bummer now.
No, this is becoming a public service episode.
This is the NPR.
Yeah.
This is where the NPR begins.
Right.
By the way,
Today's
you have a
episode.
great NPR voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Someday, you know, there'll be a use for it. Maybe I can get some jobs introducing shows in the NPR style. You know, putting everybody to sleep before the host comes on and wows them.
I think you could do that. I see it. I hear it.
Wow, thank you. Let's see. I guess something that I haven't, I'm not sure that I've heard from you in this conversation is, what is it that you love about performing?
Well, I think it's just naturally like most people would love it when you do well. It feels great to make people laugh, and it feels great when people come up to you afterwards and say how great you are.
Respecting your personal space
Right,
in
as long
doing
as-
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's that simple, I guess. And also, like, for me, like, I love doing comedy specifically. I mean, like I said before, I used to enjoy, like, playing solos and doing stuff where I could show off. But I think with comedy, there's something, it's fun that it's just, you know, it's a fun thing. It's not serious. So I don't think I would be good at, like, being in a band or something like that. I like the instant feedback, I guess, when it goes well, of getting a laugh, and like, you don't, I guess this is kind of the opposite of what I felt when I first started doing it and when I first started watching comedy, but it's not about actually telling the truth or saying something that's true. 'Cause I would think I would be very stressed out by having to make sure everything I say is true and deep and meaningful. So I like not doing that.
Is that something that anybody has ever told you? Because I've had people say your comedy lands better if it's from a place of truth versus if you truly invent something that is fantasy, or not necessarily fantasy, but is false.
Yeah.
Then you don't do as well. And it's, we haven't really talked about what your comedy style, like your content. It's somewhat, it's dirty, but not gross dirty. And you do talk about settings that you're in, but I personally don't know if you're telling me the truth or you've written something.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying, and I agree with that on like as far as like telling the truth goes. I think if you start with something that's actually happened to you or something in your life, but that's more of like, that's not really true, like ideas or beliefs. It's more just like something that happened. So I guess that's kind of the distinction for me. Is like, I'm not trying to like put out any ideas other than like having a good time. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, when I try to write jokes, I try to start with something that's happened to me or something unique to me. That usually works best because it also makes me feel better about like having my own unique material and not worrying about like coming up with the same thing that someone else came up with.
Right. Yeah. Something else that you said earlier, which I don't think every comic has a mindset to, is you said that you've got goals for yourself. And not every comic feels, and I know this is going to shock you, given what I've picked up on your personality. The confidence to set goals. I mean, I think there are comics that are like, I have to live in the present because I can't even imagine my goals failing or me not meeting my goals or me attaining my goals. I can't imagine that future.
Yeah.
I have to stay very present. And to me, it takes a level of confidence to be able to set goals for yourself and then do whatever it takes to march towards those goals. Have you always been goal-oriented, or is it just as you... Okay.
I mean, just recently, I guess, when I've definitely had like a turning point kind of from this year, like in the contest. I guess probably starting even in January or so, I was kind of had this attitude of like, I'm really going to try this year for the contest, since last year I didn't advance out of the prelims. So then I thought I was trying for the contest, but then I made alternate. And so there's going to be that whole like video contest on Facebook, which I felt very pessimistic about, since I don't really have much of an online presence.
Yeah.
So once that happened, I was like, I'm going to try really hard and this is it. And so basically that was kind of when I told myself I'm going to have to admit now that I care. And I'm actually going to try now. And I'm going to accept that this is something that I want to be successful at.
Yeah.
So now I have goals.
Yeah.
It's short-term goals. I don't really have any goals like being on Jimmy Kimmel or something specific like that.
Yeah.
I just would like to be successful and make money. So I have short-term goals to try to get to that long-term goal.
Yeah. And that's a realistic approach, especially if you're not used to setting goals.
Yeah.
And if you finally admitted to yourself that you care.
Yeah.
Good to start small and realistic.
Yeah.
Smart goals.
And I like doing like a little goal tree type of thing where you like you start with your big goal and then it branches off into these slightly smaller goals, and then that branches off into little actions you can take like every day even to get towards that goal, or every time you go to a show, you do something like record your set at every show or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. I had a friend of mine who I think she had not seen you perform for a while, and she had made the observation during your contest efforts that like she's really grown. She's like, so, the more astute observers is going to notice that you've changed something, but in other ways you really haven't changed. It's just you've gotten more refined maybe in your I don't want to rely on delivery as what has changed, because I still think you're just a very deliberate person, but I understand now that you have a mission of getting more content in your time on stage.
Yeah.
So, I know that there are people that are noticing the change. So the goals I think they're serving you well.
Well, good. Maybe I'll stick with them then.
I say go for it. I think that it would not be an Elizabeth Spears interview if we did not try to end on a dark note.
Ooh,
so,
okay.
I'm going to ask you the flip of, is there anything that you don't like about being a performer?
Obviously, when it doesn't go well, yeah. I think for me, like, probably the sorest spot for me, maybe, well, this might not be true. I don't know what's true or not. But like, people always say like, oh, how can you get in front of a bunch of strangers and what if it doesn't go well? But for me, I usually care more about like what the other comics think. And so, cause those are the people that I see all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's more personal when they're all talking in the back at the Valve, except we all do that to each other. Right. So it's really not personal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because we've heard your joke, multiple times. And we've been chasing the same open mics for the last week. And it's like, we've heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another I want to make sure that I read this because I think this is an amazing recap of you on Do 512. Have you read? Are you familiar with? Do
wait,
you know
did
about
I
this?
write this?
I don't know if you did. You'll have to tell me.
I probably wrote this.
Elizabeth Spears is a stand-up comedian from Austin, Texas. Her jokes range from playful to absurd to somewhat concerning. Fans describe Elizabeth's comedic style as friendly deadpan. Did you write it?
Yeah, I did write that.
Okay.
Do you think that's true?
I think so.
Do you have the rest of it? Because I like the next sentence.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Let me try to remember. Critics describe her clothing as too loose.
See, I'm not one to comment on
People's
clothing. Yeah, so, yeah, that's probably why I didn't choose to include that, but I just think that's great. I love the somewhat concerning, too.
Yeah, that's a definite roadblock for me. I'm like, how can I make this joke less concerning so that people will laugh?
You said you're hosting in August at Cap City. Mm-hmm. Who are you hosting for?
Brad Williams. Awesome. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Because I saw on Facebook, it popped up on my feed that you were going or something. I'm like, I wonder if she's getting to host for Brad.
I'm going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've seen him at Moon Tower a few times. He didn't come for this year's Moon Tower, but he's been a regular at Moon Tower, and he's great.
Yeah.
So I will be there.
Sweet.
I will be cheering you on.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And I will not invade your personal space after the show telling you how great you did.
Well, you can tell me I'm great. Just don't touch my back.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. And I like to wrap up with my complimentary question. One word to describe your future.
Ooh, my future. How about... Well, this would be sad now if I said hopeful, because then it's like setting me up for further disappointment. But I really am hopeful. Life can't bring me down.
No. Despite how she appears on stage, life can't bring her down. We'll have to find a good title for your episode.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to mention? We'll do promotions in just a second, but is there anything else that you would want fans out there to know?
What would I want fans to know? I think we already covered it with "Don't Touch Me." That's my number one.
Your episode title might be "Can't Touch This." I wonder if I have to trademark that. No.
Yeah. How about just "Don't Touch Me"? Don't look at me. That's what I named my internet at my apartment.
Oh yeah.
Don't look at me. But yeah. Here's a message for the fans. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's what people like. You got to keep appreciating your fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
We give them presents like Taylor Swift. Send them presents in the mail.
Right. I'll have a Patreon page up soon on my fan website.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents Elizabeth Spears. Tell us where we can find you on the internet, and tell us about your shows and anything else we need to know about. Okay. So my fan page, it's www.elizabethfans.com. And my Do 512, you can go to my Do 512 artist page if you just search for Elizabeth Spears on there. That way you can follow me, and I think it tells you about my shows, but not all of the shows are on Do 512. I also just made a Facebook fan page, and that's facebook.com/ElizabethComedy. I do Playpen every Tuesday at Fallout Theater, 8 p.m., and I did not bring a list of my shows, but you can find that on my website. So I think that's it. Okay. Very good. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Elizabeth got to be the comedic genius that you heard today, just as much as I have. Be sure to visit ComedyWham.com and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at ComedyWham, and like our Facebook page. You can listen to past interviews on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. And please review us while you're at it. This has been Comedy Wham Presents Elizabeth Spears. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Elizabeth. You're welcome. Thank you.